And welcome back to everyone here on another episode of the Adam Hazara Show. Back from, of course, my very own bedroom, from a studio where it all happens here in Burke, Virginia. Joining us here just at 7 o'clock here on Thursday, March 13th, 2025. We got some exciting things to talk about today. First spring sports podcast of the new spring season coming up. And today's episode, we're going to be getting into a preview of Lake Braddock Baseball's 2025 season here on the show. We're previewing what the team will look like, a little bit of a recap of what happened last year to start off the show today. We're going to be looking into expectations for Bruins, a little bit of schedule, and kind of how the rest of the conference is going to look. So before we get into this one, make sure you guys leave a like, hit that subscribe button, so that way you're now part of a channel. Make sure you share this video with a friend, and comment down below if you guys want to be a part of a show as well. All those, again, greatly appreciated by all of you. And so, without further ado, let's get started here on episode 18 of the Adam Hazara Show. So, today, of course, we have our first baseball episode. So first, we're going to do a quick rundown of Lake Braddock Baseball's 2024 season. So, of course, it was another great season for the Bruins. Another winning season in their 50-year history. They only have a few of those. Another season where they won the district, they won the region, made it to states. Fortunately, they lost in the state quarterfinals to the eventual state champion McLean Highlanders. And with that, Bruins had a sour taste in their mouth coming out of that 2024 season. Of course, graduating some very big talents. Of course, shortstop Jamie Wiskowski is now gone, who had been a big cog in that team for the last few years. All-Met player multiple times, All-State player multiple times. All-time batting average leader for Bruins goes down as one of the best players in Lake Braddock history, and specifically a shortstop, arguably one of, if not the best shortstops they've ever had. Tearing it up at William & Mary now. And with that, they also lost their ace in the hole in the pitching staff at Jake Drum. That was, of course, another big loss where they graduated him. He's now pitching just down the street in Fairfax over at George Mason, staying close to home. Two-year ace guy, first team All-State last year, All-Met guy, I believe a couple of times, and also another guy who historically has become one of the best pitchers in Lake Braddock baseball history. All-time leader in wins, all-time leader in winning percentage, arguably the winningest pitcher in their history, and also probably arguably the best control master in terms of manning the zone well and throwing quality strikes in that sense. So they also lose him. They also lost Pod Hall, a catcher who was second-team All-State. He's now playing at Denison College, D2 school out in Ohio, or D3 school, out in Ohio. Henry Steen, of course, who was a really good pitcher and staff. He had some injury problems last year. He's gone now playing D3 ball. I forget, but it's somewhere. But yeah, graduated a very, very good 2024 class once again with a couple of D1 players. Usually that's a bread and butter for Lake Braddock, seeing a lot of those D1 players. But I will make this point real quick to start off the show. I think this is a big point that a lot of people will be thinking of the Bruins this year. And it's that there's a huge lack of top-end talent. In other words, they don't have that D1 guy that they've had, the last few years, or not even the last few, the last several years, going all the way through their history. Almost D1 guys coming out of a program every year. One of the rare years this year. Now, it's not the first one, but it's a rare instance this year where they haven't had that D1 sort of guy and are going to. Now I'm not saying that there can't be players that come out of the team this year that are not going to be D1. I think there are some players that could be. We'll get into that later on the show. But certainly, not just having D1 guys, you don't even have any D3 or JUCO guys at bare minimum on the team. So, obviously, again, a huge top end, lack of talent. Expected that some of the current pieces that they have now are going to grow and develop. There are going to be some growing pains this year. The team does seem to be younger again for a second year in a row. They were a lot younger last year again, though. They were carried a lot by Wiskowski, Drum, Pod Hall. Great trio over there. Were in states all 4 years, won a district title all 4 years, the first 4 Bruins in Lake Braddock baseball history to ever accomplish such a feat. So, yeah, that group was pretty historic, especially, Wiskowski and Drum, as we mentioned. They've done some historic things as well for the team, and, certainly they're sorely missed. So, you kind of get into this year, and this is a 1 year where probably also saying that for Bruins, they might not even have a chance to make states, and try and compete. Now, I'll definitely tell you this right away, they are not winning a state title this year. I think there's just a lot of other teams in Class 6, look around the area. McLean's still there. West Springfield's really good. Alexander City we'll kind of get into them later. Look elsewhere. Battlefield is stacked in 6B with all those, all those Virginia Tech commits. Very deep pitching staff there. All around, they're great. You have, Gainesville, who's very good. You have Madison, over in 6D, who's always very good with Coach Pudge. You have Glen Allen down in Vieto 4, who's very good. Lansdowne, even in a 7.57, they're shown to be very good this year. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot to look at, and, certainly a lot of competition, again, the Bruins would have to overcome. And you see one of those teams I mentioned that's in the Patriot District with the Bruins, besides West Springfield. And, of course, that was Alexandria City. It seems like Alexandria City this year is going to be a lot tougher. And usually, each year, it's usually just Lake Braddock and West Springfield. You really have to worry about coming out of the Occoquan region. It's never really anyone else. You might have, maybe West Potomac, kind of there. Oh, they could be a competitor. Maybe Robinson is a competitor. Maybe, whatever other team is a competitor besides Lake Braddock, West Springfield. It always comes down to those two teams. Most of the time. This year, however, there is Alexandria City is now in the mix. Along with West Springfield, they look experienced. They look very strong. They have, like the Bruins, they have some strong commits. They have some very strong D1 talent over there in Springfield and Alexandria, respectively. For Bruins, it's going to be even tougher to keep up with those two teams this year. Now I have to worry about this new Alexandria team that's been on a rise the last couple years. It's been a great job. A program that wasn't very good before, but they've done a great job turning it around over there, becoming one of the better teams in Nova as a whole. And again, they've got a lot of talent. Now, we'll talk about the talent a bit later, but those are a couple points to get out of the way. So, Bruins going to be overall key points. Again, a lot of development for them. Big fight for them. They could still be in states at the end of the day. I think they, I will say this again, they have some pieces that we're going to get into. And, I think at the end of the day, to come May, June, when the playoffs are going on, they could still be up there to be a competitor, make states, maybe they could upset AC, maybe they could upset West Springfield. Only time will tell, though. They need to develop well. They need to mesh well. And yeah, just, they have to figure a lot of things out. Certainly in quite a few positions, pitching staff, multiple, and again, multiple positions all over the field. So with that being said, you kind of start off with who the Bruins are bringing back. So we'll kind of go over that first. Who are the stars the Bruins are bringing back this year? And whoever some of their other returnees. So we start off in the outfield where they pretty much return every starter from last year left to right. Ryan Harding, Evan George, Oliver Crandall. That was their starting outfield left to right last year. Start off with Harding. What a story he was last year. Came in starting left field during spring break, came up from JV at a time where the Bruins' left field position was struggling a lot. They had about 4 or 5 different starters there before he came in. He came in, though, and he was just a spark plug right away. And he was starting left field for the rest of the season. First season, he makes a state tournament and does a great job. Pretty underrated hitter for the Bruins. One of the better hitters they had last year. Did a great job in left field and is definitely a centerpiece for Bruins these next few years. He's back in left field. Center field, you have Evan George, the speedster out there, good defender. Out of a 9-hole, he's still there. Junior this year. Harding's a sophomore. You have Evan George coming back. He's shown to be solid out of a number 9 spot. Works some good at bats at times. Great speed. Puts a lot of pressure on the base paths. Good player to have there. Right field. Now, I will tell you with Crandall in right field, this is where things could be a little different in terms of who's playing out of that 9 spot. So, in right field. So, Crandall last year, he's the everyday guy there most of the year. Didn't hit, not known to have a bat. He's a senior this year, junior last year. Defensively, I think Coach Thompson liked his defense a little bit. So I think that's why he had out there. Mostly what's valued is his arm strength. He can throw out some runners. But again, I know he didn't do the best job after Bruins won last year, but I think they just didn't really have a lot of other pieces. Whoever else down JV, they probably just didn't think wasn't ready. Whoever else had on the bench probably wasn't going to be good enough. So they probably just stuck it out with him most of the season. And so that's what was going on with him. But this year, I hear there could be a little bit of a shakeup in right field. You got a few guys coming up from JV. A few of those guys' names are Matthew Holcomb. You guys will know his name from being a good football linebacker for Lake Braddock. Andrew Rubino is coming up. He's a guy who's been talked about. Dean Johnson, of course, the guard in basketball. He's there too. I'm hearing some very good things about him defensively. He could be battling there. I think Bradley DeHay is another name I think I heard, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me on that if you want. But there's him. He's been good transferring over from Trinity Christian. Just want to shout him out real quick. He was, I think, seen to be one of the Bruins. We'll get into more of him on the pitching side, but he is another guy. Has a good bat as well. Has some home run power. Provides some pop and out lineup that the Bruins could use. So you have him out there in right field. So definitely there's the battle going on there in right field. Now I can't really tell you who it sounds like it's going to be right now. I feel like if I had to choose, between anyone, I would say maybe a bit more likely to see Dean Johnson. I think he did have one start there in right field last year with his defense. Offensively, I think there's more to be desired. But again, we kind of have to just wait and see. Hopefully on Tuesday when they open their season at South County, kind of see what happens going on there. So that's the outfield. Infield, third to first. Yeah, Matt Mayer coming back at third base. One more underrated third baseman, in my opinion. Great power. Good exit velo. Solid little bat there. I know he was a starting third baseman most of last season. Obviously wasn't as good as Evan Schick, as they had a couple years ago, but, he got the job done. Shortstop, of course, that's where you lose Jamie Laskowski, as you talk about, losing a historically good player. That's going to bite you. So it's going to be really hard to replace him. Now, I hear the definite shortstop starter this year is going to be Matt Shabe. The only all-district player come back for Bruins, of course, the younger brother of former Andrew Shabe, Bruins star before, class 2021, and 2019 state champ. You have his younger brother, Matt, moving over from second to short last year. He was second team all-district for the outfield, which is a little interesting. And so Shabe, who actually got some starts at shortstop last year for when Jamie Laskowski pitched on the mound, good pitcher if he graduated too. He's going to be showing over shortstop where he showed some good defense. His bat is still there. That's good. So he's expected to take a bit of a bigger step this year. It seems like he's kind of taking the same route that Jamie Laskowski did a few years ago. Second base as a sophomore, moved over to shortstop as a junior. When still in Corey, class 2022 graduated. which was Jimmy's sophomore year. So seems like Shabe's going to be going that route. Second base, I've heard that a big contender there is junior Braden Gibson, Shabe, junior this year, Mayer senior. Just want to point that out real quick. You have Braden Gibson, who got some starts over at third base last year. A concern with him, I think, is his defense. He did make quite a few errors at third last year. So I think, obviously third is harder to play than second base. Being a hot corner, you got to have good reactions. And I think definitely that does loosen up Gibson to be a little more comfortable over at second. And I think overall, that's probably, in my opinion, that's a better position for him. So I feel like he sounds like a strong candidate. Start second base. As Shabe will move over to shortstop. So a good combination of middle. Gibson can make some good contact too. Could definitely hit for a higher average on the side of offense. So you have him over there. First base, I've heard a couple of names. Bradley DeHay, as I mentioned earlier in right field, he could be at first, again, with that power. Another name I've heard, of course, is another returnee, Dominic Quadros, who's a senior this year. Of course, the younger brother of the former Lake Braddock star, Ryan Quadros, 2019 state champ. So he's there. Got a few starts at first base last year as well. He was okay in his appearances that he had. He seems like he could be taking a bigger step up this year. Most likely, might hear he's getting talked about a lot. So there's another name right there. At first base, DeHay as well, I believe, plays first. So you have kind of those two. But I think it's going to be Quadros more, it sounds like. And then catcher is where things get a bit more interesting. Of course, they lose Pod Hall there, who was second team All-State catcher, stable for him for 4 years. In a program, great leader, well liked on and off the field, and just contributed a lot to the Bruins baseball program. He's now Denison, Ohio again. And so the battle there seems to be between, sounds like CJ Prentice, the junior catcher who transferred in from Illinois school last season. He's been very impressive with his exit velo and his line drive percentages. Kind of getting into more. I'm going to talk about this catcher situation a little more. But the Bruins do have one freshman coming onto the team this year in the form of Evan Chambers, who's a catcher. And what I hear is that the Bruins really, really like him. So that's where things get a little bit more complicated for the Bruins and kind of a battle at catcher. Because they have these two guys with Prentice and Chambers. And, I've heard there's a strong case that Chambers could very well. So again, I've tried searching up some things on him, but again, I haven't seen much. All to hear those. He's a freshman catcher, really good. Definitely sounds like a guy who could contribute Bruins right away. So now, obviously, if you have freshmen on varsity, Bruins are expected to use them. That's why I have a freshman on varsity so that he can help out right away. Seems to be that guy. Bruins like him in that. And so, but here's the thing where it kind of gets a little clunky. So CJ Prentice, again, we mentioned, how hard he can hit the ball. He can hit the ball really hard. I mean, it's really impressive to watch him hit. He hits the ball hard, well over 90 miles an hour. Actually saw a clip of him in the batting cage today. He released this just about an hour or two ago. He actually, in the cage, hit 100 miles an hour in exit velo off the bat. Very impressive. I don't even think that's something Jamie Laskowski did in his high school career for Bruins. So you have him. Also, good player in terms of power defensively. Good pop time. Hard worker. Been working really hard in the offseason. Guy's a grinder. And it's a little bit interesting because with this talk with Chambers and Prentice trying to be the catcher, kind of interesting that, kind of sounds like CJ might not be the favorite. Now, again, I understand, exit velo power. Obviously, that's not everything in baseball. you have to have, what good is all that if you can't make contact? And maybe there might be a bit of concern with CJ in terms of a bat-to-ball skills and making consistent contact on a regular basis. But I think the fact if he can hit the ball 100 miles an hour, I think that is just someone who's way too good to give up. And I feel like, even if he has discipline concerns, if you feel like he's going to strike out more than you would like him to, I think he could be good enough, though, to give you, maybe, let's just say, hypothetically, he could hit maybe 240 or 250. One of those two numbers. That could still be good enough to be a contributor to this Bruins lineup. And if he could put up decent slugging, drive in a good amount of runs, you would expect him to be near the middle of the order, hitting around maybe the 3, 4, 5 mark. And, no one really cares about batting average anymore. We're not in the era of baseball anymore where batting average isn't as important. The game is all about home runs these days. And again, you don't want your guy striking out too much, but I think, obviously if he can be a big power threat for you, if he's going to hit home runs, then, I think that will be good enough. You got to give up something, get something. I think giving up those strikeouts for those home runs and, for the solid offensive production that he could give you, I think it is worth the risk. And again, the Bruins are going to be taking a lot of risk this year. There's going to be some risk. There's going to be a lot of question marks. A lot of things to figure out, as I said before. This is one of those areas. And you could still have Evan Chambers be in the lineup. There is a way. You see, the Bruins also have an open spot at DH because another name I forgot to mention, McLean Edwison, who was second-team All-District last year, he graduated. Aiden Wolf, who got a lot of time in the DH spot last year, he graduated. So now, that clears up more opportunities for other hitters to get involved. You could do the same thing that, Pod Hall, and remember Jack McCarthy from back in the day, a couple years ago. McCarthy and Hall would kind of flip in and out of that catcher and DH spots. And so one of them could get some rest, get some time off their feet. And so if the other one could get some time to the plate, doing the catching. I feel like you could do that if you want both their bats in there. Again, I don't really know much about Evan Chambers. I know CJ Prentisville is going to rock the ball hard. That's what he's going to do. He hits the ball over 90 miles an hour every time. He could hit 100. Probably hits 95 miles an hour. He can do that too a lot of times. So you could probably rotate Chambers and Prentice out of a DH spot if you wanted to, as well as the catcher position. If you really want to get him involved. And so you could do that as well. Now, here's another concern, though, for, if you're going to just strictly keep those two limited, if you're going to have those two going in and out of those two positions, that's going to cause some problems for the DH spot for some of the other hitters that could provide some value. I think a couple other hitters. Here's another one. Bo Padgett. Good pitcher last year. He's a junior. This year, sophomore last year. He has some good value to his bat. He could definitely be good. He's shown he can be good with a bat. You have, I think Jimmy Swain is another name that is up there. Walter Rizzardi got some starts last year. There's some names. So, if that's where things, excuse me a second, where it could become a lot more complicated for Bruins. And so, I think what you would want at that point is you maybe just take your chances with, okay, who's hitting better? Maybe someone needs a rest. Maybe rest one of them if, one of them isn't going well. But again, again, there's going to be some things that the Bruins are going to have to figure out. But I feel like, if they're, CJ Prentice should be starting this year. He should be good enough. I understand there maybe is a side of concerns, and that's understandable. But I think he's too good of a bat to have hitting the ball 100 miles an hour where you can't have him in there. You can't tell me you can't have him in there. You need offense this year. That's going to be, I think that's where the Bruins kind of had problems last year at times, especially towards the more bottom part of the order. You need that offense. And he's a guy who can really give that to you. So yeah, Prentice, I think could very well. I think he is a high candidate to start, and hopefully, he is starting next week. Huge fan of him and his game. PBR has him as an all-star or an all-state game selectee last year as a sophomore. I don't think he was at it this year, but he's been very good. He's shown some very good stuff. So now let's get to the pitching staff. Pitching staff, this is, of course, where it gets, a little wonky. Again, a lot of things you have to figure out. Another area of team that you need, that they really have to figure out as well. You'll lose Jake Drum. You'll lose Henry Stevens, we mentioned earlier. Jamie Wiskoski, also another very good pitcher. A lot of losses in that pitching staff. Now, Bo Padgett seems to be the favorite to be the new ace to take over Jake Drum's role. I'll tell you, Bo Padgett, I like what I've seen from him. Showed mainly pitched out of the bullpen last year. Of course, he probably wasn't going to get much starts with, Drum and Steen and Wiskoski still being there. But pitched well of the bullpen, showed a lot of good stuff, showed good control, clean location. Really liked what I've seen from Padgett. He's worked hard in the offseason. His bat has some value, like I said before. He can throw harder now. He was only throwing like low 80s last fall. He's actually increased up to maybe more towards the mid to high 80s. So that gives him more options for strikeouts. Although I heard it's been a little bit of a struggle for him in the scrimmages early on in the spring here, that he's trying to kind of figure out maybe how he can use his strikeout stuff more. So maybe that's something that, pitching coach Roger Prairie goes over with him. So we'll see what happens with that. But I feel like Bo, he has some good stuff, good life to it as well. He's someone who could definitely step up and be the Bruins ace this year. The Bruins really like him. They gave him some good time out of the bullpen. He did deal with a little bit of injuries last year, but he's healthy this year. Nothing reporting as of right now where he's hurt. So there's that. Another guy to look out for is Jack Cavalario, who, just like Ryan Harding in left field earlier, as we mentioned, he was the guy who actually stepped up from JV last year. And as a pitcher, got called up to varsity. Only pitched one game, but he got a lot of strikeouts of a JV level last year. Showed really good stuff again. PBR All-State Selectee. Now he doesn't throw as hard as Padgett. His fastball is around a high 70s. But I know he has a very good good wipeout curveball. Definitely has some good stuff. I know that's someone that Coach Prairie really likes a lot in the pitching side of things. And I feel like he could maybe be the guy maybe behind Bo Padgett who gets things done. So you have him as well. I think those two will play some big roles, both juniors. And overall, mentioned in Bruins junior class, you mentioned, those two, Matt Shabe and Evan George, Braden Gibson. I think there are some pieces over there, and, CJ Prentice as well. There are some pieces that the Bruins have in that junior class. A lot of depth there. Mentioned some other juniors in the pitching staff. We got to mention Matt Shabe there in the pitching staff. There has been some concerns for him. I think on the pitching side of things, I don't think he's been staying healthy enough. He's been a 3-year varsity guy now. He was pitching as a freshman, only pitched like maybe once or twice last year. And the one start he had against West Potomac, he wasn't that good. Again, but I don't think he was healthy enough on a pitching side of things to really get things going. But again, I think, if he can stay healthy, he could definitely be someone who the Bruins could see helping out on pitching staff. They've liked what they've seen so far. He got quite a few innings out of the bullpen as a freshman. So he could be someone who could contribute some points on the mound this season. Leo Del Olmo is back. He's a senior. Showed some very good stuff last year at times. So that's another guy. Bring back Oliver Crandall can pitch as well. They have him. And again, I do want to mention Bradley DeHay on the pitching side. Transferred from Trinity Christian, was actually first team all-conference as a pitcher last year good lefty ace. I hear he can top 90 miles an hour in his fastball. Unfortunately, he's not going to be available to pitch start the season because he sprained his UCL, as he told me. So it's going to take a while for him, but I feel like he's another good establisher, another good junior out of that 2026 class that the Bruins have up and coming right now. That could definitely contribute later on in the season. He's still healthy enough to hit, so hopefully we can see him hit this season. Some capacity. I'd really like to see him play in that side. But yeah, can definitely be a good pitcher. Had some good control, got a lot of strikeouts. Someone who doesn't really have a lot of notice right now, but he should be able to get it once he gets healthy. So again, big fan of him right there. But yeah, certainly overall, there's a lot for Bruins to figure out with this team. So now we kind of get into the rest of how the Patriot Conference looks. So of course I want to mention West Springfield and Alexander City. West Springfield wasn't as low as they were last year, but this year they have quite a bit returning. You mentioned the first guy I think you want to mention is Aaron Dirks, the South Carolina commit, who a guy was pumping 90 miles an hour as a sophomore last year. Now, he didn't earn all district. Actually, I don't know. It was hard to find all district stuff in terms of like who made the team last year for West Springfield. I know the 2 all-region guys were Caleb Williams and Ronald Thompson. I'll get into them in just a minute or so. But Aaron Dirks is really good. Got some very, very good fastball, 90+. Good control fit. Great slider. Great curveball. I know he was a PBR on their preseason All-State honorable mention list. So he's someone that they're really watching out for. And then not only that, you have to deal with him, who gave the Bruins some trouble last year. He's very good offensively, too. Definitely a big part of their lineup. I believe a DH/first base, because of 2 positions plays when he's not pitching. You also have a first-team All-Region guy, Milo Thompson, also back, who's a senior. So you have those 2, very good 1-2 punch over there. Probably makes one of the better 1-2 punches in the area in terms of pitching. Mentioned Caleb Williams, second-team All-State last year, D1 commit to Liberty, formerly VCU. He's coming back at shortstop, now going into his 4th year as a starter for the Spartans. He's very good. I believe he's on PBR's preseason All-State first-team list. So, there's definitely a lot of talent between those 3 coming back. Justin White coming back at second base. Zachary Zdobko back at catcher. In the outfield, Brady Davies, of course, the great linebacker for him in football, is back. He's playing right field. Other names, Patrick Cito, Sean McMahon are good out there. Patrick Cito will be a first-year starter this year, I believe McMahon as well. But both of them very good, very solid. Cito hits the ball very well, has a good arm, offers a lot of great tools for the Spartans. So is McMahon. Infield-wise, you have Thomas Antonio coming up as a corner infielder. He's going to be good. I believe he's a D3 commit. A lot of talent come back there. Spartans have multiple commits in several places. Trying to think who else. I know Gavin Price, of course, who was a sophomore. The sophomore linebacker was all district for him. He's back as a sophomore this year, freshman last year on varsity. He offers some nice skills. Sutton Denny is another name to watch out for as well. So you have them. I think the one problem for maybe the Spartans, maybe they'll have to develop some depth behind Dirks and Thompson in that pitching staff. But overall, I think, like I said, I think Gavin Price pitches. They have some other names as well. Ethan Seckler seems to be another name that's been popping up as well. Senior, who has some nice pop and looks to be maybe starting at third base with Antonio going to first base. Dirk's probably the DH. Zopko a catcher. So you have a lot of that coming back. That's some good talent. And then you go over to Alexandria City, where they have the D1 commit to Bucknell and Liam Jones back. He was a good pitcher last year when he was at his best. You also bring back the ECU commit, ECU very good program, Jason Krushek, who is one of the top prospects in the 2026 class in Virginia. Ever since he's transferred from, I believe, Bishop O'Connell, he's been great. And they also have some other. Now, they did graduate a good 2024 class names of Andrew Church, Aiden O'Brien Gonzalez, who's now, I believe, at Fordham. They have Sawyer McElton gone. Jack Briscoe, former first-team All-District pitcher, who's out of there. But they do also bring back, those two. Krushek has been committed to ECU since he was a freshman, actually. J.D. Bowden is a name that they're bringing back. Noah Sternberg, who's second-team All-District, good pitcher, had some struggles against the Bruins, but a good lefty that they bring back as well. You mentioned Matthew Raylis, who I believe was an all-district catcher for him. Tommy Kokal is also another catcher that they have who's really good. Cameron Trail, good sophomore. Seems to be very good on the mound. Cooper O'Volley, Connor Pollock, a couple of other names. And I think Crovers Ruiz is also another name that's up there for Titans. But the Titans certainly have some good things going for them there. They're another team to watch out for. It's no longer Braddock and West Springfield. There is a new team in Alexandria City in the mix that is definitely going to be a threat. They could have probably made states last year in that regional quarterfinals game. They were winning for the first few innings, but I think Liam Jones just ran out of gas too quickly. Noah Sternberg came in. Pod Hall hit that grand slam. And so the Bruins were able to win that one. And they got some good pitching from Jake Drum. And, after Jamie Wisconsin struggled early on. So they have that. Looking at, other teams in the district, you have West Potomac, who's kind of a team that's always up there. Of course, they have D1 commit Austin Dean, one of the top 2025 prospects in Virginia. Now, the concern with him is, of course, his control as a pitcher. He's 6'8", much taller guy than a lot of other baseball players. So, he has a lot of trouble controlling the ball. So that's a major concern with him, is that he walks me, but when he does when he is at his best, he does get a lot of strikeouts. Definitely a very exciting pitcher to watch. But they do have a couple other pitchers. Liam Cardman is back there for him. Jackson Riedel, as a sophomore, is very good. Probably a future ace for them. Got some really good stuff over there. You're probably looking at maybe Dean being closer for them, in my opinion. I think that's where he's better suited, where he can harness his control better. And then you probably have a 1-2 punch there being both Cardman, who D3 commit to Catholic, like his brother Luke Cardman, class 2023 guy, and then Riedel getting a lot more innings this year as a sophomore, as he's on varsity last year. Kind of rounding out a 1-2 punch for the Wolverines. Cardman sounds like to be a piece for him offensively. Jeremy Folk, very annoying hitter for a lot of pitchers at the is going to be back as well. You have Barrett Baker, who's back at second base. Wolverines are expecting him to be better after a slow and down sophomore season. Honorable mention all-district as a freshman 2 years ago. Another one name to also watch is Banks Holman in the outfield. He's supposed to be very good as well. Hard hitter. And good defender as well. Got some nice speed, I believe, as well. So, so West Potomac, I don't think they're up there as much as, say, the Spartans and the Titans are, but still got some good pieces. Zach Tureen, another name that is also up there. But again, and of course, you mentioned West Potomac making states last year. Honestly, they got kind of lucky. Because they had such an easy route in regionals with facing two national district teams who never really have to account for, even though, they faced Hayfield. But Hayfield really wasn't, obviously on a level competition that, any of the Patriot district teams that they usually face are. So, Hayfield doesn't face a lot of competition, really isn't ready for West Potomac, and overall just isn't nearly as talented as a lot of those other Patriot district teams. Of course, as always with national district teams in most sports. Of course, with a few exceptions elsewhere, but and a bad Annandale team over there. And then, of course, facing a Woodson team who's been the worst team in the district the last few years. Still looks to be pretty bad this year. It went through them in the region semifinal, so That was someone made states, but they got clapped in by 10-0 to the Bruins in the regional final game at Fairfax. So again, West Potomac though, I feel like there's a chance they could, maybe again, it's another year they could kind of be up there. Of course, back in the days, when they had Brody Sean, Bennett Zippel, Joe Humphreys, Antonio Marucci, they were very good at times. But again, I think, they didn't have enough consistency, especially with down performances from Brody Sean, who again kind of Dean had a lot of control issues. I think he's been better in college. He's at High Point now, seems to be doing better. So good for Sean over there. Excuse me again. And you kind of mentioned some of the other teams. Robinson, made the district finals last year, or we wrap up in a few minutes here. Robinson graduating while their lineup. Of course, Aiden Von Bars, is back there. He's very good Coastal Carolina guy now. One of the best teams in the country this year. He's a very good first-team all-region pitcher. Flamethrower, mid-90s fastball, and a lot of good power if they lose him. Ward brothers, again for Burt. Mark Scholl, Kellen Clark, Noah Edward, Tommy Henry, Hayden Fitzgerald, all good names that they lose. They bring back Connor Doherty, the D1 commit to Delaware at shortstop, 4-year starter for him now. He's back. Boston Parker is back for them. Also lost Brian Roschke as well in the pitching staff as well. Robinson kind of, was there last year whenever Von Bars is there, who was a very good top-end guy. But again, they didn't have the pitching depth to, really compete with the Bruins. And, Robinson looked a lot worse whenever he wasn't pitching. Seems like depth is still going to be a problem for him this year. Boston Parker seems to be very ace coming into the season. Again, I don't know if he's, really that top-end guy. We're going to have a lot of lineup stuff to figure out. I know Rucker Hansen, Noah Winters, Brock Riley are definitely a few names to watch out for him this year. Are definitely going to be showing them some promise. So you have that. And you mentioned maybe a team. Fairfax is another team. Ryan Hartle, of course, is back for them. Two-way guy. Very good over there. Penn Morris is back for a shortstop, of course, a free sport athlete, football and basketball as well. All-district receiver in football, of course. Good guard in basketball. Clayton Smith, starter freshman last year, back there this year on the infield. But I know Fairfax graduated quite a bit, but, Hartle's probably maybe, has some good top-end potential in the pitching side of things. Good hitter as well. But, I don't really see Fairfax having the depth that, the other teams they should have. So I don't really think they're going to really be as big of a threat. And then South County, young team last year with Coach Warren over there. Shout out to him, being a head coach of Metro Braves, who I, of course, commentate for during the summer in the past. They have one of the better catchers coming back in Caden Bean. Tyler Orff, of course, the great receiver in football, back in center field, first team all-region there last year. Shout out to his brother Trevor Orff as well, his dad Brian Orff as well, who are really cool. You have Luca Yassi back, Trevian Campbell, another free sport athlete that comes back, good receiver in football as well, alongside Orff at shortstop, good basketball guard for them as well. Not Reed Osborne, his younger brother Wyatt Osborne, come back at second base. I think he's expected to maybe be could be their ace, higher end guy in the staff this year. They also bring back Oscar Alpo, who was all district for him last year on the pitching side as well. He's solid. They also bring back Michael DeVore as well in the outfield. Landon Somers is another name to watch out for. He's a sophomore, got some good power, good pitcher as well. Landon Larimore, another name that they have too. But again, I think South County, they've had some struggles over the last decade. ever since kind of like Coach Lufer left. Shout out to him as well. Blake Say is another name that they have coming back as well. But it definitely seems like at South County maybe is still building a bit more this year, but seems to be heading in the right direction. So again, West Springfield and Alexander City probably the big two competitors to the Bruins this year. But again, so they're going to be opening up for a season at South County and Robinson next week. Again, we mentioned those two teams. Bruins need to get out to those are two games where Bruins could get out to some good wins if they can show up and play well. They need to, definitely need momentum going to next week where they have our home opener against West Springfield on Tuesday the 25th, which will be commentating. That'll be my first game of the season. Be sure to check out Lake Braddock's broadcasting YouTube channel, 6:30 that night as always. Going my 4th year commentating Lake Braddock baseball. So honored to be back with all you guys this year for year 4 before I send it off for my senior year. Again, so Bruins, looking forward to seeing what Bruins can do. Be interesting overall. So thank you guys for tuning into this longer episode of the Adam Hazara Show. We're clocked in at 46 minutes and 37 seconds. Be sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, share this video with a friend, and comment. All very much appreciated. And thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. Have a great night and goodbye.